I was a bit hesitant to make a Mornye pool value breakdown because the information that we got about her in the version 3.0 special broadcast was barely enough and pretty vague to help you guys get a fair idea of the value that she can provide for your account. But the official release of version 3.0 has given us tons of new information, so this will be my pre-release analysis where I'll go over all the information that we have so far to help us determine her best teams, buffing potential, weapon options, and finally my pull recommendations. Let's begin with Mornye's playstyle. Her forte circuit seems to be heavily focused on aerial combat, much similar to Lene. But before you can activate the forte circuit, you need to build stacks with basic attacks and most likely her skill that can parry incoming attacks and heal all teammates, which will be very good in much harder endgame content like the Double Pawns Matrix Pilot to make Mornye leave the field quickly without wasting time dodging attacks, which will be especially useful in the first rotation where she doesn't have access to intro skills for more concerto energy regeneration. With full ground forte stacks, she enters a flying state with most likely her skill or heavy attack input, since it's the most common way for most resonators to transition into their forte circuit mode or use their forte circuit. The flying mode reminds me of Jinxie's grappling hook tech that you can use to avoid attacks that are telegraphed to hit the ground. But the best part is that Mornye can stay up there for quite a long time based on the footage that was provided in the livestream. So she'll be able to ignore all close range attacks from enemies that are telegraphed to hit the ground, unless it's a projectile that can snipe you in midair like Fallacy of No Return's special attacks or Lorelei's projectiles. A classic way to fix this will most likely be her S1, since that's the sequence of most resonators in the game that grant anti-interruption and more quality of life changes to their gameplay. But you won't need it if you can study the enemy's attack patterns, which I highly encourage you guys to do if you cannot afford to pull for sequences. In flying mode, using basic attacks will most likely grant her another special stacks, and when it's full, she can use the special attacks right here that creates a Symphony field to grant buffs to all her teammates. But what exactly are these buffs that the devs were referring to in the livestream? The first one will certainly be off-tune level build-up rate, because her signature Echo Sonata effect, Halo of Starry Radiance, grants up to 25% attack buff to all teammates when she has at least 125% off-tune level build-up rate, which means Mornye will provide at least 25% off-tune level build-up rate for all teammates, which increases your team's overall damage output because they can recover off-tune level much more quickly to use the Tune Break skill much more often and reduce the enemy's aggression as well. This works even better with Lene because she'll now be able to nuke bosses multiple times with Tune Rupture damage when she activates Tune Rupture Interfered. But for Tune Strain, the buff that Lene gets is still pretty underwhelming, even if Mornye allows you to add another stack of Tune Strain Interfered on the enemy like Lene does, which will now be 18% damage bonus for 3 stacks of Tune Strain Interfered. If we add the 10 base Tune Break boost to the 40% Lene can provide when she uses Visual Impact or the plunge attack from her forte circuit. But keep in mind that this is just my first impressions, so it's possible that Mornye can make Tune Strained Lene superior in terms of damage output by granting additional Tune Break boost, for example. The Symphony field will also most likely provide continuous healing for the on-field character, which makes sense because of her role as a sustained unit, similar to Showkeeper's Stellar Realm and Verena's coordinated attacks. Finally, there is a high chance that the Symphony field will also buff all type attribute damage bonus, just like the 24% from Lene's Liberation, since every unit in the game can make use of the off-tune level build-up rate that Mornye provides, making her a more universal support. But this buff will most likely be the one that you can only get if you trigger a Tune Rupture or Tune Strain Interfered, as confirmed by the devs during the special broadcast due to how powerful it can be. So there's a high chance that Mornye's superior buffing capabilities will be locked behind Lene's kit, which will be a problem if you don't have her. If we consider the fact that Mornye is not suited to be a damage dealer, but more of a support, the all-type attribute damage bonus should be around 40 to 50%, which is most likely a double of what Lene can grant from her Resonance Liberation if we ignore the buffs that their weapon will provide for all teammates from a base kit analysis perspective. And this makes sense due to the power budget concept. In simple terms, The more universal buffs and supportive capabilities that a character can grant to all teammates, the lower their personal damage and vice versa. The last buff that we need to take a look at is her outro skill. Since Mornye is much similar to Shorekeeper and Verena, there's a good chance that she'll also provide 15% damage amplification or even higher to put her a little bit above Shorekeeper in terms of buffing capabilities, since Mornye is a new character. Team building. Since we've clearly established that Mornye should work better with Lene, your team building options will vary based on who you decide to put in the third slot, which can be Shangliao, Kaocharo, Chisa, Yuno, and Havoc Rover. But don't limit yourself to liberation damage dealers, especially if you're a free-to-play or low spender, because you can pair Mornye and Lene with any DPS unit as long as they don't require Echo Skillcast or negative status effects to do damage. A good example is Mornye, Lene, and Carlotta if you don't have Sheji on your account. And I'm actually curious how this off-meta team will perform compared to the Shorekeeper, Sheji, and Carlotta team composition. So be sure to look forward to her guide video where I'll show the results of my testing with off-meta team compositions. For her weapon alternatives, you should focus on the ones that have energy regen substat because Mornye's main echo, the Reactor Husk, buffs energy regen by 10% just like Fallacy of No Return for Shorekeeper, so there's a good chance that the all-type attribute damage bonus that she'll most likely provide after a Tune Rupture or Tune Strain interfered will increase with increasing amount of energy regen, so Discord Broadblade should be your first priority. But if you're new to the game and you don't have that, go with Broadblade 41, which you can craft for free. More weapon options will be provided when her official kit information drops to help you guys prepare for Mornye. For her echoes, keep in mind that you can farm them without any wave plates or stamina every day at the Tacit Discord nest in Lahai Roy, but I strongly advise against leveling them right now because we don't have official information on how much energy regen you actually need and other stats that could potentially increase your damage output or buffing capabilities, so just focus on farming them for now. Based on everything that I've analyzed so far, here are my pull recommendations. I've made several videos for free-to-play sharing strategies that you can use to improve and future-proof your account. Among those strategies was securing universal buffers that can act as a replacement for best-in-slot teammates that you might not have for certain DPS units. And Mornye is the perfect example of such a unit that can serve as a long-term investment for free-to-play and low spenders to future-proof your account. But there's an issue that needs to be taken into consideration before you pull. Mornye's kit being locked behind Lene's might look like another Zani Phoebe situation, since Lene is currently the only one that can apply Tune Rupture and Tune Strain interfered. I've actually gotten quite a few comments from my viewers that they are not pulling because of that, which is absolutely fine because getting two characters in the same patch can be very costly. But as a free-to-play or low spender, getting Mornye and Lene can be good for you in the long term because it's certainly an upgrade for DPS units lacking their best-in-slot teammates on your account. A good example is Shorekeeper, Taochi, and Carlotta versus Mornye, Lene, and Carlotta. Lene's 25% liberation damage amplification may be useless here, but that team will do better in terms of clear times because of Mornye's off-tune level build-up rate buff for more nukes from Tune Rupture Lene, Mornye's universal damage bonus, which should be around double of what Lene provides from her liberation, as I mentioned earlier, Lene increasing the team's overall damage output due to her decent damage potential, provides more attack buffs from her Echo Sonata effect compared to Moonlit, grants 48% damage bonus to herself and Carlotta if you have her signature weapon, and finally allows the entire team to do more damage with the Tune Break skill due to Lene's team-wide 40% Tune Break boost. So you'll be missing out on a big upgrade if you usually play non-best-in-slot team compositions as a free-to-play or low spender, since off-tune is now a core mechanic of the game that every character has access to. My best recommendation is to get at least Lene if you cannot get them both, and then get Mornye on her rerun if you fall into that category. That'll be all for my Mornye pre-release pull value breakdown. Before you go, thank you so much for 20k subs. It took a year and a half, but we finally did it. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments and I'll reply as soon as I can. Be sure to also leave a like and subscribe to help support the channel, because it's free and you can always change your mind. Our Discord link will be in the pinned comment if you're having any issues with the game, help with your build, or you just want a place to chill or hang out. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.